Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom or Tom. How's it going?
Tony, it's portal season. How do you think it's going?
It's going like constantly, and there's always something going on, and there's always names flying around, and so we're going to be talking about some of those names flying around in various episodes throughout the month, I would say. And the one name that we wanted to talk about in this particular episode is Florida defensive end Jayden Woods, true freshman this year, being mentioned as Ohio State being mentioned as one of his suitors. And so we wanted to talk about him. And Tom, defensive end is a position of need for Ohio State right now. They are losing Caden Curry. We don't know what the situation yet is with Kenyatta Jackson, but also we know that Logan George has already hit the portal. Dominic Kirks has already hit the portal. Those are, of course, guys that are lower down the totem pole, but losing Caden Curry means you need to bring somebody in that can play right away, and then hope you can keep Kenyatta Jackson. But there's some young guys on the Ohio State roster. If they could get a guy like Jayden Woods, who played quite a bit this year for Florida, this is one that is probably maybe less expensive than a Chaz Coleman.
Yeah, I mean, Chaz Coleman is it seems like Chaz Coleman is sort of perceived as the top of the market right now. And, if Ohio State could get Chaz Coleman, and Chaz Coleman is an Ohio native, yeah, absolutely. By all means, go get Chaz Coleman. That would be great. But Chaz Coleman was just visiting LSU. So, Ohio State is not the only suitor for Chaz Coleman. And if they don't get Chaz Coleman, you need to find someone else there. Because as you said, you'd love to keep Kenyatta Jackson. You would love, Zion Grady looked like he was probably on his way towards a much bigger role as the season sort of went along. You've got Bo Atkinson, who played a role, and he would be back next season. So, but you really do kind of need another guy, and that's even if you keep those all the other guys, which is far from a guarantee. So, Jayden Woods, what's exciting about Jayden Woods is true freshman last year. So you would sort of assume about to take a substantial leap. First year player to second year player in college is generally a pretty significant step forward. But what was exciting to me, and I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and say that I have been grinding tape on Jayden Woods for the last 48 hours, but it does not take long looking at his just game by game to recognize a pretty significant pattern of this is someone who took on a much bigger role for Florida throughout his true freshman season, and who also, was a significant contributor and turned into a major player for them towards the end of the year.
Yeah, 3.5 tackles for loss in his final two games against Tennessee, 1.5 tackles for loss, Florida State, 2 tackles for loss, and was productive and in that rotation in a good piece of the defense for them down the stretch. And so that's somebody that you build on. He builds on that. And if you can bring him in, he comes into Ohio State with enough experience, but also still malleable to do whatever Ohio State would need him to do. He's not the biggest guy, listed at 6'3", 248, but that's basically Arvell Reese, except maybe just a smidge shorter. And just see what Matt Patricia and Larry Johnson would want to do with him. 3.5 sacks on the season, pass broken up, 3 QB hurries, a forced fumble, an interception. He's around the ball, and he's one of the top guys in the portal. And if Ohio State could land him, then that would make that defensive line much deeper, because it's already going to be young when you look at Zion Grady, Epi Satanale. You hope that Kenyatta Jackson is that senior leader. Bo Atkinson, as you mentioned, could be a senior leader as well. I think they need to get more out of Bo Atkinson, and I wonder if they feel like they can, because we saw Bo Atkinson's numbers go down at the start of the season. He played a few more snaps than Kenyatta Jackson against Texas. By the end of the season, Zion Grady is playing a few more snaps per game than Bo Atkinson. So I wonder what their view and vision of Bo Atkinson is at this point. And are they viewing him as a starter? Are they viewing him as a contributor? And all of this that we're talking about still comes down to But what about Kenyatta Jackson?
Right. It feels like that's sort of the necessary first piece. And that feels like that's kind of the case at a lot of position groups. Like at defensive end, you'd love to know what's going on with Kenyatta Jackson because that really changes the conversation about what Ohio State needs in the portal. At defensive tackle, what's Caden McDonald doing? Can you talk Caden McDonald out of the NFL draft? I don't know if he can, but if he can, boy, would that make a big difference in terms of what the interior of the defensive line looks like. Jermaine Matthews at corner. Can you talk him out of going to the NFL? And these are all maybes. There are none of these. I'm not going to insult you and say, can they talk Arvell Reese at? No, probably not. Arvell Reese is, unless Arvell Reese's NFL draft projection changes significantly, you're not talking someone out of being a top 10 pick. You're not talking Caleb Downs out of the NFL draft. If a guy is maybe a first to low first, early second or mid second kind of guy, maybe you can like that, especially if that's someone who could potentially move themselves up the draft board in a year with, by improving certain areas. So, these are all realistic guys that the Ohio State could get back. And if they do, that sort of changes what your NIL outlay looks like. At that point, you have probably less money to bring in outside players, but also you have less need for those outside players. So, if you lose Kenyatta Jackson, maybe you're really trying to get Jayden Woods and Chaz Coleman. And if you keep Kenyatta Jackson, maybe you only need one of those guys. So you wonder how much the Ohio State coaching staff knows about where things stand with these guys. Because the NFL draft declaration is usually sometime like mid-January or so, right about the time the transfer portal will close. So you have another week or two to sort of have those guys get that sorted out and make those decisions and announce those decisions. And at that point, then you kind of have a better sense for what, how deep the shopping list needs to be at all these positions.
We also know they're very high on Curry Wilder, the incoming true freshman. So that's another factor where you'd probably like to see what he can do immediately. And we'll find out more in the spring about him. But you can't rely on true freshmen. And you almost can't rely on true sophomores unless they're Bosa's or Chase Young's. And right now you don't have any of those. And that's no slight to anybody on the roster. There aren't any. So, you've got to live in the real world and see what you've got. And of course, as you said, it all comes down to Kenyatta Jackson, and then they'll go from there. And if he decides he wants to move on to the NFL, that opens up the money that they've got there. Shoot, if Bo Atkinson decides that he wants to move on, that opens up some money there. But boy, what a chaotic life to live in this portal world where you've got so much time now. Ohio State has a lot of time, and it looks like they're using a lot of it and most of it and all of it to try to put together a roster that can do what a 2025 roster couldn't, basically.
Yeah, and, there's still – I think the thing that maybe should be comforting, I'm sure it drives personnel. Mark Pantoni is probably a little more stressed than he was in previous years. He's trying to manage this roster because there's so many moving pieces. But the thing is, you're trying to, everyone in the country is going through this right now. This is not, well, Georgia's exempt from this or Alabama's exempt from this. Like, no, everyone is going through this right now and dealing with, who can you keep, who's coming back, who can you get in the portal, finding the money for all these guys, retaining your guys. Like this is just sort of the way of the world right now in college football. So this is not a uniquely Ohio State problem or a uniquely Florida problem. Ohio State has two things going for it. One, they're not going through a coaching search where, you see a lot of these like really good Florida players in there. It's like, well, they changed their coach. And so that causes a lot of roster turnover, but also you're not trying to manage this while also trying to go through the college football playoff as they were trying to do last year. So, I saw Kurt Cignetti and Dan Lanning both complaining about that. And I'm sure Ryan Day was kind of going like, oh, well, the old John McClane, welcome to the club, pal. Like this is how the world is right now. And you're trying to juggle all of it. And so, this is not a uniquely Ohio State problem by any means.
That was exactly my quote tweet to that. It was the John McClane gif of welcome to the party, pal. Because that's what Ohio State has been living. And Indiana's finally getting to experience that. Good for them. I'm sure Kurt Cignetti loves it. So there you go. That will do it for this episode, talking about the Buckeyes and targeting a defensive end in the portal, and we'll see if that can come to fruition. We're going to be talking about several more players over the course of the next few days and probably beyond because, again, there's 2 weeks of this, 2 weeks to enjoy the chaos of the transfer portal, and then another couple of weeks to enjoy the landing spots that will also come from all of the players entering the portal. So if you could hit a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, do all of that jazz, we'd appreciate it. You can continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com, and we are talking about all of this on our transfer portal thread on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus, which is turning pages rapidly. So that will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.